The Senate debates whether to give the District of Columbia voting power in Congress. Jomo Kenyatta, one of the founding fathers of modern Africa, is dead.
From ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings in London, Max Robinson in Chicago, Barbara Walters, special reports, and from our desk in Washington, Frank Reynolds.
Good evening. At this moment, the United States Senate is preparing to vote on a proposed constitutional amendment to give the people who live in the nation's capital full representation with the right to vote in the House and Senate. Residents of the District of Columbia, and there are now 700,000 living here, pay taxes and fight in wars and are subject to all the laws of the United States, but have no voice in writing those laws. The House has overwhelmingly approved the amendment, and the Senate now seems likely to vote for it too. Here's a report from Don Farmer.
This is the Washington, D.C. most Americans see, the symbols, the workplaces of government. The tour buses usually do not show visitors the homes and neighborhoods of the nation's 12th largest city. Washington's residents never have had voting representation in Congress, not since this federal district, once mostly a swamp, was carved out of Maryland and Virginia in the 1780s with only 14,000 residents. The fact that Washington's population today is 72% black has been a potent, if quiet, issue in the debate over D.C.'s right to vote in Congress. Some prominent black Americans have led the lobbying effort. The widow of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the Reverend King Sr. came to the Capitol today for some last-minute lobbying.
I see this as very much a part of the continuing struggle of Selma, Alabama, to get full voting representation for those people who have been disenfranchised in our society.
Walter Fauntroy, the district's non-voting congressman, gathered considerable help from some conservative Republicans who have been watching black people vote in increasing numbers in their home states. So what about the issue of race?
I am sure that there are some members who are opposed to this question, and there will be people in the nations opposed to it. Solely because of race. But I think that number is very small, I hope.
Opponents said they were voting no because Washington is unique, not because it's black.
I look on the District of Columbia as a company town. And I mean the business of Washington, the city of Washington, is government.
A two-thirds vote is required for passage of this constitutional amendment. And if that happens, it still must be approved by at least 38 state legislatures. Some senators reportedly were preparing to vote yes today, believing Washington's right to vote in Congress would be squelched in the state houses around the country. Don Farmer, ABC News, at the Capitol.
It was not until 1961 that the citizens of the District of Columbia were given the right to vote for a president. In 1971, the district was given a non-voting delegate in the House, and it was not until 1974 that a measure of home rule was achieved here with an elected city council and a mayor whose name, appropriately enough, is Washington.
This is Ingolstadt, Germany, where this car, the Audi 5000, is built. In this town, whether it's making fine silver or making a fine car, people still take pride in their work and believe if you can't do it right, don't do it at all. So anything made in this town is made right. The Audi 5000, the largest German luxury car you can buy for the money. It's made right.
Oh, clumsy me.
Janet, you seem so jumpy.
My doctor says caffeine makes me nervous, but I don't like decaffeinated coffee.
New Sanka brand is different. It now has more real coffee aroma and taste.
Smells real. This is real coffee.
This room really looks better.
And I really feel better since I switched to Sanka brand.
New Sanka brand decaffeinated coffee with more real coffee aroma and taste.
There has been a wild time in Managua, the capital of Nicaragua, today. About 20 uniformed gunmen, believed to be members of a left-wing guerrilla group, burst into the National Palace and fired a volley of shots at members of the National Assembly. Reportedly, they seized a number of hostages. A Red Cross spokesman said at least 15 persons were wounded, and there is also a report that at least 3 persons were killed. Peter?
The major story overseas today is the death of Jomo Kenyatta, the president of Kenya, the first serious black revolutionary in Africa this century, died peacefully in his sleep early this morning. His exact birth date was unknown, but he was in his middle 80s. His death was unexpected and has caused widespread shock in the country. The grandson of an African witch doctor, Kenyatta was educated by Scottish missionaries. He once said, "The missionaries taught us to pray with our eyes closed. When we opened them, the missionaries had all the best land." Kenyatta was already talking black nationalism in the 1920s. In the 1950s, whites were to fear his influence as Kenya was beset by the Mau Mau terrorists. 14,000 people died in the ensuing terrorism, but despite the popular misconception, fewer than 50 were whites. Kenyatta denied involvement. The British, who ruled Kenya, were not convinced, and Kenyatta was sent to jail until 1961. When he emerged from prison, Jomo Kenyatta was a natural rallying point for blacks. The name Jomo means burning spear. Kenyatta made it clear to a British reporter that his thirst for independence had not been quenched.
When do you want independence for Kenya?
Today.
What means are you ready to adopt to achieve independence?
Constitutional means.
And do you condemn Mau Mau violence and oath-taking?
Well, I have never approved of any violence at all.
2 years later, through a peaceful process at the conference table, the British left Kenya, and Kenyatta became the first, and until today, the East African nation's only black president. With his famous fly whisk, Kenyatta was a commanding presence, not only across Africa, but in Europe and America as well. He maintained good relations with Britain, and of late, particularly with the United States. He brooked no opposition, yet relative to the rest of Africa, Kenya is a stable, moderate nation where there are many whites today as there were at independence. There is a free press. Kenyatta has been criticized. His own tribe, the Kikuyu, has been allowed to dominate business and government. But there are many tribes and widespread concern now that tribalism will rock the nation's democratic foundations. No one was allowed to discuss his successor. There is no obvious one. In later years, he's been accused of isolation and occasional corruption. There is a large gulf between the very rich and the average poor. His wife is widely accused of controlling the ivory poaching, which is stripping Kenya of its elephants. Kenya's acting president will be the vice president, Daniel Arap Moi. Kenya is militarily weak and surrounded by adversaries. The man to inherit the mantle will undoubtedly find it heavy. Here in Europe today, more than 300,000 Yugoslavs turned out in Belgrade to cheer and toss flowers at the visiting Chinese Communist Party leader Hua Guofeng. Hua and President Tito rode in a motorcade to their second round of talks on common problems, which include frequent criticism from Moscow. Hua last night accused the Kremlin of trying to subvert the movement of non-aligned countries, which his host, Tito, helped found. At London's Heathrow Airport today, there was increased security precautions for the departure of the El Al crew members who survived a terrorist attack outside their London hotel on Sunday. Armed troops in full battle dress accompanied light tanks and armored cars. Bill Siemens reports tonight on the crew's arrival in Israel, where security has also been stepped up.
They were welcomed by relatives as if they had just returned from a war, and indeed the survivors had, after the terrorist campaign reached the streets of London. They were hit where they were most vulnerable, where the Israelis did not have direct control over their own security.
We detest the way some of the governments are, what they're doing and how they're reacting to the terror, the freedom of action they're giving them in their capitals, and we will hope that this will be an experience which will not repeat itself.
The emotion of the homecoming and the determination to carry on was best expressed by the chief purser.
We should not be considered as heroes, but strictly as lucky people. We are lucky to remain alive, and we are determined to continue flying because it's our job.
Meanwhile, Israeli security forces launched a widespread exercise coincidental with warnings to expect an upsurge in terrorist activity aimed at disrupting the Camp David Summit Conference. At a bus station, an Arab was taken away for questioning when he was not able to identify himself satisfactorily. The public has been asked to report all suspicious objects to the police bomb squad. Bill Siemens, ABC News, Tel Aviv.
A final note from overseas today. The 3 American balloonists went off on a public relations venture today back to the farm outside Paris where they landed after their transatlantic voyage, back to the farm which got trampled by well-meaning French glad to see them. Today, the farmer was said to have been pleased to finally say hello himself.
Exclusive pictures taken by the balloonists during their historic flight across the Atlantic will be shown on the ABC News 2020 tonight at 10, 9 Central Time.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are about to see Donald O'Connor scratch his feet. He does it when he's bothered by the itch and irritation of athlete's foot, and that could mean trouble. Donald uses Absorbine Jr. to stop the itch in seconds. It kills fungus on contact, and it keeps on working to help heal athlete's foot. So treat your athlete's foot with Absorbine Jr. and let your feet do their stuff.
Are you an overdoer?
If I don't do it, who will?
Someone who occasionally gets an overdoer's backache?
Well, that does it for today.
You should try Doan's Pills. Doan's contains a medically proven pain-killing ingredient that relieves backache pain and strained muscles for hours. So if you're an overdoer...
Be careful, honey.
Ooh. Remember Doan's Pills. Doan's. It takes the ache out of backache.
What do you want me to wear? A potato sack?
I'm not made of money.
Ralph, they don't pay you enough. You're worth more.
But I don't have the time to look for a better paying job.
Let Snelling and Snelling look for you. They're the world's largest employment service.
And they do the looking?
While you go on working.
Honey, Snelling and Snelling found me a better paying job.
Underpaid. Let Snelling and Snelling find an opportunity that pays what you're worth.
Remember our first kiss?
We were watching Casablanca.
Your football team watching us.
Even if you wear dentures, keep every kiss special, like the first, with today's anti-odor Polident. Polident's exclusive formula has 2 hard-working cleaning actions. Chemical action helps power away even tough stains. Physical action fights odor-causing film. 2 hard-working cleaning actions to keep your dentures clean and up-close fresh. Anti-odor Polident. We want you to stay close.
Large turnouts were expected for primaries in 2 states across the country today. In Alaska, Governor Jay Hammond is fighting a comeback effort by former Governor Walter Hickel for the Republican gubernatorial nomination. Hammond beat Hickel 4 years ago, and today's primary is expected to be close. In Oklahoma, Governor David Boren is leading 6 other candidates in the Democratic primary for U.S. Senate, though he may face a runoff. A county grand jury in Goshen, Indiana is now looking into the deaths of 3 teenage girls killed when their Ford Pinto caught fire a year and a half ago. 1.5 million Pintos and Mercury Bobcats are slated for recall to eliminate a tendency for their fuel tanks to rupture in rear-end collisions. The grand count or grand jury investigation in Indiana could bring a charge of criminal negligence against the Ford Motor Company. In St. Clairsville in eastern Ohio today, thousands of coal miners showed up for the hearing to consider allowing public utilities to burn high-sulfur coal mined in the area. The miners fear they'll be forced out of work because the utilities plan to use low-sulfur coal brought in from western states. Some of the milk in Arizona grocery stores was not for sale today. A few grocers voluntarily stopped selling it, while scientists test milk supplies possibly contaminated by a potentially poisonous substance originating in some Arizona cattle feed. Scientists say the substance, aflatoxin, is not harmful in small doses. American farmers routinely use large doses of pesticides on their crops, and Congress is considering laws to make it even easier to use new ones. But some farmers are learning that many of the old pesticides are being overused. Ron Miller reports.
That is a corn root beetle on the attack. It spends its life attacking this country's principal cash grain crop. The little pest is central to a question concerning the responsible use of agricultural chemical insecticides. The corn root beetle is portrayed as a terrifying menace by chemical manufacturers. While no one doubts the need for pesticides in agriculture, there is serious question about how much of the material is required. In fact, the corn root beetle and similar insects may be the subject of a classic case of American overkill. In 1976, farmers spent almost $2 billion for more than 180 million pounds of insecticide. Some leading scientists insist that as much as 70% of that application was unnecessary. Purdue University entomologist Dr. Tom Turpin fears that insects will become increasingly resistant to insecticides through the overuse of chemical controls. During the past 43 years, almost 400 different insects became immune to the pesticides that once killed and controlled them.
Once the insect is resistant to the insecticide no longer will kill it. And this means that an application of that particular insecticide in the field will in fact do no good at all.
This newsreel from the 40s might be comical if the material being sprayed and praised were not DDT, banned in 1972 because of its health hazards.
Hold still there, bossy. This isn't going to hurt a bit.
Successful farmers like Don Myers remember the DDT lesson. This year he'll use about half of the insecticide he applied to his crops last year, saving money, but also, he hopes, helping to keep the government off his farm.
I am of the opinion that if we can control our own process right now, our own environment that we live in, pesticides, weeds, so on and so forth, that it's just that much further down the road that the federal government won't be telling us what to do and how to do it.
Myers is turning to professional insect scouts to determine if crops are in need of insecticide application.
You think we won't have to treat that now?
I don't think we'll have to spray this one. No, matter of fact, I would say no, we will not have to spray this.
Farmers are finding insect scouting to be beneficial because it means they are no longer buying and applying pesticides out of habit and hunch. And that, for many, is a dramatically new approach to agriculture and our environment. Ron Miller, ABC News, Lafayette, Indiana.
What kind of drumstick is this?
There's a new snack cracker, looks like a drumstick, tastes so good you lick your lips. Dixie's drumstick snack crackers.
New Dixie's from Nabisco, the snack cracker shaped like a drumstick with a fried chicken paste that's lip-licking good.
Dixie's
New Dixie's
drumstick snack crackers
by Nabisco.
Today is my day off, and I'm taking care of the little princess here. Because the wife, she should have some time for herself. She should. That lady works hard. But I gotta hand it to her. She really knows how to take care of herself. I guess that's why she takes Geritol every day. She swears by it.
Geritol, more than double the iron you get from any ordinary supplement, and some very important vitamins. Take a look at who takes Geritol.
My wife. What'd I tell you?
Geritol, every day.
Hey, come here, watch this. Ready, set, spray. 409 beat me again.
Beat you?
Yeah, it started working before I could start wiping.
Let me try.
Lots of luck.
Watch in slow motion as Formula 409 spray cleaner's special dirt dissolvers start to break up and wash away even greasy dirt, even before you can start to wipe.
See? 409's fast.
Even on greasy dirt.
409, it starts to work before you can start to wipe.
Você me conhece? Eu sou conhecido porque uso a cabeça no campo de futebol, mas também uso a cabeça quando viajo. Eu sempre levo comigo o cartão da American Express. Já usei em mais de 40 países. Ele é conhecido e respeitado em todo o mundo, até nos lugares onde eles falam línguas estranhas, como o inglês.
To apply for a card, call 800-528-8000.
The American Express card. Don't leave home without it.
The American expedition through the wilds of the Salmon River in Idaho is reportedly making good progress tonight. The leader of the group is said to be enjoying himself, even though the weather is not too good. For a report on this daring journey, far, far from the madding throng, here is our wildlife correspondent, Sam Donaldson.
Most people fly into Indian Creek Landing in a small airplane, but then most people aren't president. Mr. Carter, of course, was doing his best this morning to forget that he is.
What do you think of seeing me, Mr. President?
Beautiful. You going down with us?
Yeah.
Oh, fine. Oh, I feel good already. Just another blue jean-clad tourist toting his own duffel down the stairway to the flotilla of big rubber boats hired for the journey. The president seemed in an excellent mood, even taking a snapshot of the photographer snapping him.
That'll remind me of what I'm leaving.
But then the inevitable delays that come to all travelers set in. On with the ponchos. Oh, come to think of it, not necessary. Of course, Amy's first life jacket didn't fit. Get her another. All the supplies still not loaded. No wonder a note of presidential exasperation.
Let's go!
Finally, they were off. Secret Service men in the lead boat, the Carter party close behind, setting down the middle fork of the Salmon River. This section relatively quiet, the water shallow, the rapids miles ahead. But even there, the forecasts are that Mr. Carter won't even get wet, much less find himself in danger. So big is his boat, and so high are the splash skirts. But the president did his best to find the spirit of a wild river adventure. Let wife and daughter sit, he'll stand, thank you. Prompting one reporter to ask from the vantage point of the Indian Creek Bridge, will we see you again?
I hope so. If not, take the other White House. He's playing. They need a lot of help.
And so day one begins, and the press is left behind until tomorrow. But it's just as well. By mid-afternoon, it began to hail and snow in the Middle Fork. They did remember to bring those ponchos, didn't they? Sam Donaldson, ABC News, with the presidential party in Idaho.
Though the president is trying to leave civilization behind, the usual White House communication setup is along to keep him in touch, if need be, with the outside world, including today a number of developments concerning Southeast Asia. In Hanoi, the leader of a group of visiting U.S. congressmen said the delegation has concluded that 329 Americans still listed as missing are in fact dead. There is another lingering problem in Vietnam, or in Southeast Asia rather, in the aftermath of the long war there. Ken Kashiwahara reports from Thailand.
Sudarat Pomdi's father was an American sergeant who abandoned her even before she was born. Virat Sringwankom is called B because his father used to work on B-52s. Collectively, these children are called Pomdang, loosely translated, mixed blood. Their mothers are Thais who lived here with American GIs during the Vietnam War years. With few exceptions, the GIs completely abandoned mother and children when U.S. forces pulled out of Thailand. Sudarat's father went back to the States 3 years ago. He said he would come back to pick her up, along with her mother. He also said he would send them money. Sudarat's mother says he has sent money only once in 3 years and has made no other contact. The boy they call B has never heard from his American father. His mother works as a bar girl in another town in Thailand and has visited B only once in 2 years. Neighbors take care of him. In this town, the mixed-blood children literally live on the other side of the tracks. They tend to cluster together, finding comfort living near their own kind, trying to avoid the prejudice the Thais generally have toward mixed bloods. They run the gamut of mixture: white American Thais, Mexican American Thais, black American Thais. Children with black fathers have a particularly rough time. The problem is also financial. Some children are sponsored by American families through the Pearl Buck Foundation, but sponsorship provides only $9 a month for both mother and child. One of the sadder cases is that of 4-year-old Noe. His mother has just died of cancer, and in the Buddhist tradition, Noe is saying goodbye. His American father has not been heard from since he abandoned Noe and Noe's mother 5 years ago. Noe has no relatives here and is now all alone, surviving only on the kindness of neighbors. The Thai government provides nothing to the mixed-blood children, and only recently, in fact, reluctantly agreed to give them Thai citizenship. It is unlikely any of the American fathers will ever come back for their children, and many children have been abandoned by their mothers, too. One social worker says the children need most the one thing they can't get: warmth and love, so necessary in a country where being mixed blood is hardly a desirable thing to be. Ken Kashiwahara, ABC News, Korat, Thailand.
When it's time to serve some fresh perk coffee, you could serve freeze-dried Taster's Choice.
Fantastic.
It is fantastic. You get all the fresh perk flavor of ground roast coffee from a jar of Taster's Choice. Taster's Choice, regular and green label decaffeinated. It really does look, smell, and taste like ground roast coffee.
What?
untypes as easily as it types. The Smith Corona cartridge ribbon typewriter. Snap out the typing cartridge, snap in the correcting cartridge. The Smith Corona cartridge ribbon typewriter.
Last year, it was saccharin. In January, certain hair dyes. And this past spring, hamburgers. No wonder so many people now ask, what doesn't cause cancer? There's a lot we don't know, but we thought we'd try to clarify some of the things we do know. According to accepted information, between 80% and 90% of all cancers come from our environment. And we also know that half of all cancers are related to nutrition. That is, what we eat. Dr. Barry Commoner has been a leader in the study of cancer dangers in our environment. In tests like these, his research group at Washington University in St. Louis first discovered the link between potentially cancer-causing agents called mutagens and hamburgers, which are fried at very high heat on metal. He and other scientists maintain that they're able to determine what chemicals are carcinogenic, that is, cancer-producing, by feeding them in massive doses to laboratory animals and then examining the metabolic reaction. Other scientists say that because the doses are so extraordinarily large, these tests aren't valid. But Dr. Commoner defends his methods.
When you find something causes cancer in animals, it means some percentage of the human population is going to be susceptible. See, most of the chemicals that cause cancer don't act directly. They have to be changed by the body.
Doctor, what is the person to do who has heard so much now that he almost doesn't believe anything, and every day there seems to be a new cancer scare?
I'm a label reader.
And?
And if there is, on the label, synthetic chemicals, I'm suspicious. I would stay away from foods that are put together by taking synthetic chemicals off the shelf and mixing them up so that they taste right and have the right color.
There are other steps we can take to reduce our susceptibility to cancer. The Food and Drug Administration says the public should be more aware of what they refer to as the total body burden. That is, the more a person is exposed to carcinogenic substances, the greater the risk of getting cancer. Suppose, for example, you live in an area with heavy air pollution. Work with vinyl chloride. Use saccharin. And smoke cigarettes. You may be increasing your susceptibility by also using certain hair dyes. And if you eat fried hamburgers, well, no one can say that you will get cancer, but the odds are higher that you may.
In almost no case can you really measure the risk in any accurate way. So all you know is it's risky. How risky, you don't know.
We must decide whether smoking cigarettes or dyeing our hair or eating fried hamburgers is so important to us that it's worth the risk.
Thank you, Barbara. That's our report on World News Tonight. For ABC News, good night.
I'm Hugh Downs. On the next 2020, the American ideal of justice threatened as Texas cops apparently take the law into their own hands. The American dream in extra innings as Jim Bouton tries for a comeback at 39. And an exclusive chance to fly with 3 Americans making history over the Atlantic.
Tonight on ABC.
Grace, I think there's something in your dishwater.
Of course, it's Dove for dishes.